So, another comment. Louis so obviously wanted fame. He literally hunted Teresa, walking down her street, waiting for her to be outside, charmed her, and preyed on her naivete. It's pathetic. No one should be rooting for Teresa and Louis to last. He is nothing but trouble for her. She went from bad with Joe to worse with this clown. Okay, that's a person who, like, that's a comment. That's not from me. I don't call people names like that. I don't call people clowns. But I agree with the rest, though. I do. Just taking a sip of my tea, guys, because if you don't know, like I said at the beginning, I have a sore throat today. So I do believe, I think the first person to say this was maybe 3 years ago, Danielle. I don't know if you guys remember, Danielle Staub was doing recaps, like she was watching the Real Housewives of New Jersey live and she was commenting on it and all of that. And it was at the point where Teresa and Louis had just gotten together. And I heard it from Danielle Staub first. She said that Louis liked the cameras already. She said that. She said, I've heard that he likes the camera. So I don't know, but Danielle, sometimes when she says things, I listen, because she is not wrong often when it comes to them, right? So, and then there's a lot of people commenting about this online, and I have to agree. I'm not sure, like at first that whole story about, oh, it all happened on Bay Boulevard like 3 weeks ago. I was praying to my parents, and then 3 weeks later, there's this man, and I meet him. Like, listen, guys, there's a story that Teresa gives, and because of the editing, you don't get the whole story. But if you actually go and listen to the story of how she met Louis on her actual podcast, I don't know, like, I remember she was saying, and I'm just paraphrasing, guys. She said she was at the Jersey Shore and she actually saw Louis a few times. He was running by her, like she was taking walks at the shore, and every time she would be walking down, he would be passing her in the opposite direction, shirtless or running or something like that, right? So when she said this, I was just like, oh, and I think that happened 3 times that week or weekend that they were at the shore. She would go for a stroll and he would be running in the opposite direction without his shirt on, and he would be kind of passing Teresa. So when she said that on her podcast, I was just like, oh no, this is not a coincidence. This guy's doing it on purpose. He knows what he's doing, right? And then she said that she was walking again with her friends, and then Louis was packing up his car, ready to leave the Jersey Shore. And by the way, that was his first time at the Jersey Shore. He had never been at the Jersey Shore before, right? So first time you go to the Jersey Shore, you see Teresa Giudice. It's like, this guy's like super lucky, right? So then he's packing his car as Teresa happens to be walking by with her friends. And then another thing that I thought that was very interesting that Teresa said on her podcast was that she pointed at the car that he was packing because it's the exact same car that she has. Isn't that a coincidence? It's full of coincidences, this story, right? So I was like, huh, really? Because if you really think about it, guys, I'm not even sure what kind of car she's driving. I think it was the Range Rover. I think that's what she said. But when you see someone driving your car, no matter where you are, right, you'll just be like, oh, that's my car, right? Especially if it's like the exact same thing, right? You'll be like, oh, that's my car, the car that I drive. So obviously it's going to catch your attention. So coincidence? Maybe. But I don't know. I tend to not really believe in coincidences anymore. So I don't know. And then at that point, because she was pointing at the car, he waved at her. And then, the rest is history. He gave her his business card, blah, blah, blah. And then apparently his son said, do you know who this woman is? And he had no idea of who she was, right? No idea at all. Find that hard to believe. Especially after he was on Sherry Shepherd a few weeks ago and he said, obviously I've known of Teresa Giudice before. Well, I thought you never watched the show. I thought you never, you didn't know who she was. It doesn't make any sense, right? And then another thing that I find interesting is that, that whole comment about Alexa, we talked about that. We touched on that last week, but I saw a video of Louis and Teresa. And Alexa is on the computer and they're talking to her. And I guess they're talking about how they met, right? So Teresa calls Louis over to kind of sort of explain how he met Alexa and his friendship with her and all of that. And then he says, oh yeah, I met you in 2019, I think, in Barcelona. Yeah. And she's like, yeah. And you were with your son, right? And he's like, yeah, I was with my son. And he's like, and you were with the guy that, she's like, yeah. I wasn't married, but he's my fiance. He was my fiance at the time, but you were with your son. And he's like, I bumped into you in Barcelona. I'm like, is this guy for real? You go to Barcelona, you bump into Alexa, and every time it happens while you're with your son, right? So it's you're in Barcelona and you bump into the Real Housewives of Miami girl. And then your first time at the Jersey Shore, you bump into Teresa Giudice and end up marrying her. I don't know. I don't know if I buy all of this. Plus, I just have a question. What was Louis doing in Barcelona alone? Was it a business trip or something? Or what was going on? Because I thought he was with Vanessa back then.